right, welcome everyone. Agenda review and disposition, any changes?
The only thing to add to discussion items is the fiscal report from last year.
Okay, great, thank you. Privilege of the floor, Ann, are you okay right now? Welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome. All right, approval of the minutes from August 15.
I'll make the motion.
Make a motion, Paul, seconded
Second
by
that.
Paul. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining? Abstaining for attendance, okay. All right, great. Bernie and Barbara. All right, student report, principal report.
We will have a student report, Madam Chair. I met with the young lady today, and she'll be available at our next full meeting. Excited to have her. She'll be joining us through the whole year. She is available, so that's good news on that end. Tonight, I have a mock schedule open house, just a meet and greet. Hopefully, a lot of parents show up. There's a lot going on around here, as you can see. There's a football game going on, JV soccer, varsity soccer, field hockey, and a JV football game that just will start at 5 o'clock. So we're pretty busy here. But the mock schedule will start at 6, where their parents come around and they go through the kids' schedule. It's a fun night for them. We'll get that started right at 6 o'clock. I have some numbers for you that I think you'll be interested in. It was a great opening, knock on wood. Kids got right into the routine. And right now we have 149 freshmen, 167 sophomores, 189 juniors. Be a big prom. 140. Good send off on me. 145 seniors. So you can do the math on those. I had 20 new students walk in, front door. 6 freshmen, 7 sophomores, 6 juniors, and 1 senior. And I only lost 9 and 5. I lost 14 kids that either went to other schools or private schools. And then you combined my 3 exchange students, one senior from Belgium, a senior from France, and a junior from Germany. We're off to a booming start. I do have a request too that I'd like to make. It is grant pending though. It's asking for an overnight for our Quiz Bowl team. It's led by their advisor, Troy Harris. We're looking at leaving, they don't miss any school, leaving on the 22nd. It'll be a Friday afternoon. They're going to Bishop London High School in Syracuse, New York. And he would be taking, him and Paul Ferentz would be the chaperones. They're taking four of the students on the team. Registration is $80. They will be using the school van, but that'll all be covered by the grant. But it is an overnight, so I need a motion for this to happen. Thank you.
One night. Questions?
Oh, no.
No, you're all good. Okay.
One night, Bruce?
One night, just one. And they will be staying in the host families of the school they're competing with. So.
Okay, trip overnight to New York, grant funded overnight. Bernie, you're gonna make that motion, Phil, you're gonna second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, abstentions, great, thank you.
Numbers on the bus, Madam Chair, are fine. I monitored them all week. Your biggest numbers are probably the Campton Thornton bus, which is approximately 32 to 34 kids. That's in the morning. Afternoon is a lot lighter, obviously, because a lot of those kids are involved in sports. So we have 7 buses. And none that I was worried about having 2 or 3 kids on them. They're all fairly well used, so we're in good shape there. We've already done 2 fire drills with 6 to go, so we're in great shape. Numbers in the classroom, the amazing is the electives that we ran. You cannot believe the study halls, the numbers in them. 7, 8. Period 2, maybe 9, 10. So these kids really took advantage. They loaded up on financial literacy. They loaded up in world languages. They loaded up in the first aid.
Yeah.
All those new classes we ran. So I was, gave me a lot of flexibility, not needing 2 teachers to cover a study hall, only 1. freed up other duties that I assign teachers at, but, and the numbers are fine. I got a couple of high-level math classes, upper level. I just want to let them sit, because the kids have another week before they drop. So we'll let that fan out. But the numbers are real good, and the electives are, they're taking full advantage of it. If anyone has any questions for me, school is up and running.
What were the study hall numbers before?
40,
More?
more, yeah, some of the big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I had them in the cafeteria, some of them were 60, 65. So,
Barbara?
How many new sophomores did we have?
how many new sophomores?
Yeah.
7 new came in.
So when you gave us the numbers of each of the classes, does that include the 7?
Yes.
It does,
Yeah.
those numbers are.
Yeah, so that 149, 167, 189, 145, that includes the new kids that came in and the kids that dropped out. So, those aren't bad numbers. 189 juniors is a lot of kids. And we did have, we opened up the first week on a Thursday. We ended the week with an assembly. The kids were marvelous. The comedian, Justin, what's his, McKinney? Yeah. He really took off and did a pretty good spoof on me, I guess, on my age and how long I've been here and a few other funny things the kids had fun at. So, good way to end the day. End the week though. That's it for me, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
You're
Great.
welcome.
Committee progress reports will be in a little over a week. And discussion items for the village water and sewer request and
So I got an email from the Plymouth Water and Sewer with the request. So this is kind of Dan's expertise, so I'm gonna have him go through their request to the school boards.
I'm going to pass out a couple of maps here real quick to everyone, so you have a frame of reference. I've only brought a couple of copies of the actual deed language. And while I'm passing these out, I'll just speak to it real quickly. Essentially, as part of the, you may have noticed that there's a small water and sewer project going on in downtown Plymouth. I should pass these out. So the nuts and bolts of it
let's see,
is...
I can share. Yes, we can. Thank you.
Sure. I'll share. You will share? We're team players. You guys play nice to each other. Yeah. So the one with all the fancy colors on it is the existing map of Plymouth's. Red line is what's called a force or under pressure sewer line. And the green lines are what are called a gravity line. And what they're looking to do really is take a shortcut. So they're looking to take a direct line from where it comes up along the river from the development downtown Mount Highway. Okay, right now it comes all the way across your fields and works its way around towards Merrill Street. You may be able to see on the very colorful one with a lot of colors on it. They just want to go straight across and meet the new lines over by the Common Man Inn. And to do that, they would cross, they would abandon the lines that currently go underneath the pit, the athletic fields over there, and just basically making a straight shot. That's what this is showing here. You can see there's sort of two big rectangles on the lesser colored picture. The one on the left is title held by the school district. So they just want to come straight across it. It's not used, it would be underground. It would be a new easement. My one request when they came to us with the request was that if the board does allow this, we want the village water sewer district to pay any legal fees. Obviously, you're going to have your lawyer review it, make sure it's all kosher before it's signed, things like that. So if you're open to the idea, I would recommend a motion empowering the superintendent to sign any and all documents relative to the easement once the language is approved by Pemi Baker and council. I would use the same. So this school district used a lawyer named Paolo Weiser up in Littleton when it bought that parcel of land along the river a few years ago. So he's familiar with the parcel already. And as I said, the village water sewer district said they would pay his bill on behalf of the district. so there'd be no cost. And I try to answer any other questions you may have.
Questions, yes?
So they won't be digging up any fields or anything?
No.
And whatever they disturb, they'll put back in condition?
Absolutely, yep. So on this color one, what you can see is that oval, that's really the area that would be affected. They would just move a straight line off that corner instead of that whole red line that comes up behind Plymouth Elementary and into your athletic fields. They would just go straight across over towards where the inn is.
So we actually have to grant them an easement to do it, is what we need?
Exactly right.
Okay.
You have to grant them an easement.
I'll make a motion, that we grant the easement to the water and sewer per the diagrams, subject to them covering all our legal fees involved in the transaction.
Second that.
And the superintendent to sign any necessary documents to
Thank you.
effectuate that. Does that satisfy you?
Well, you're a lawyer, and I'm not, so I don't. But challenge you on language.
About having it looked at by an attorney?
We are.
Yeah, that already-
By an attorney.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're gonna pay any of our fees
It
associated
didn't
with
say
that.
that in the motion, so I didn't know if it had to or not.
I didn't say pay. I
You
did.
did, I
That
thought
you
you did.
did too. Yeah, I
You
thought you
did.
did.
You said grant an easement, and I didn't hear him say subject to legal. If you did, I missed it. That's fine.
I think if I missed it, it'll be picked up on the TV, correct?
Right.
Okay. So I'd like to correct that then if I did miss it, because it's subject to that.
Yeah, okay.
It's subject to that, the review by the attorney and the cost being borne by sewer company.
Okay. All in favor? Everyone's in favor, opposed, abstentions. Oh, you have a question? Is that what you?
No, I was just putting my point.
Okay, all right. Yeah, you
Put me
second.
in there.
All right, sounds good. All right, great. Thank you, Sam. That was a great motion.
I don't know what it was, but,
But I did.
Janice got all of it.
okay.
And we-
And cleaned it up appropriately.
All right, great. Now, principal search
She always
update.
does.
So we have put out the survey as promised at the early September, and have received a ton of feedback already on what folks are looking for as far as the next principal. And that would just help us form a lot of the questions as to getting some community input about what's happening. So I was pleasantly surprised by the feedback we got and the amount. So it's people are interested for sure. So the next thing is we post, the weeks are funny. We're gonna post right before the 1st, so we can kind of stay on track with our timeline. And so it'll be posted for about a month. And then the interviews will start after we look at certifications and qualifications.
Great, any questions?
Any questions on that? If anybody asks you about the search, it's all posted on the website, both the SAU website and the high school website. The process, the committee, the survey, anything anybody wants, the timeline, the job description, everything's there. So it's right on there, and I have mentioned it in my welcome back video, and I'll mention it kind of as we move through so people are aware. That's all I have.
Great, thank you. So the fiscal report, fiscal year ending.
So I handed a packet around Pemi Baker. It says Pemi Baker School District on there. It's a report of last year's finances. I'm just going to have Dan quickly go over kind of where you stand overall with the finances from 22-23.
Thank you.
Yep.
So if you open up the packet to the first page, we start with our, just a depiction of where the general fund ended the year. It's a very high level. The two numbers I'll point to are at the bottom. In particular, I can answer other questions if you'd like, but essentially the fund balance retained, the $307,401, that's how much money we're holding on to. It's available for emergency expenditures or to use as a revenue next year. The unreserved fund balance is the $357,822. That's what becomes a revenue this fall to offset the tax rate based on the budget that was approved. That's a number that that was last year's full retention that you folks committed to being a revenue this fall when this year's budget was built. If we, any questions on that page? Okay, if we move on to the next page, it's a brief summary of our general fund revenue sources. The budget was built on a certain set of numbers. That's the first column. We've got the actuals that came in and how that, the difference between the two. The biggest number that I'll point to specifically is the district assessment, the amount that was leveled in terms of local taxation on the towns, about almost all the way down to the district assessment. It was down $339,000 from the budget, and that's largely due to the fact that the fund balance, the unretained fund balance at the end of FY22 was so much lower, so much larger than had been budgeted for. There was a budget of $211,000 to be in the unreserved fund balance, and actually $524,000 was what was left over. You can see where there was also some additional tuition, which contributed to some of the fund balance we have this year, and some other small numbers that were, in some cases larger, in some cases smaller, where the revenue did or did not meet projections. Any questions? The third page in the packet is a depiction of how your food service program ended the year. Again, it was a strong year. I had alluded to some of these years. I've had some conversations about these numbers when we talked in the spring about raising prices to be consistent with the federal government's mandates, but also that even though the program is running at a slight deficit now, for the first time in a number of years, there's a strong enough fund balance that we don't need to add money to the budget to support that deficit. There's plenty of funds built up. As you can see, there's a large shift from the years. If you go back, I'll just point to one number in particular, the state and federal dollars per day, if you will. The year prior to the one that just ended, we were getting $2,000 a day from the government. That was when all people qualified to be reduced because we were still operating under the COVID parameters. That number dropped down to $640 this past year, but student sales went up dramatically as well. So, last page is your capital reserve funds. These are funds that require a vote of the public to either put money in or take money out. We don't have much in terms of capital reserve funds in this district. A little bit of interest. We've got a building renovation fund and a special education fund. There's about $3,500 total between the two. Nothing's been done with these in my time here, but if at some point in the future you wanted to fund those, we could talk about mechanisms for that.
To have in the special education capital reserve fund, I mean, 1,700, well, no, that goes way back. The amount of money that's in there is useless. I mean, when you're talking a $250,000+, and that's probably low, out of district placement if someone moves in.
There's new legislation that protects us from that. So many districts have gotten rid of that warrant article with the special ed, right, specific catastrophic incident.
Catastrophic,
Yeah, and a number of districts recently, we had one in particular last year that because there was an insignificant amount in one of their long-standing capital reserve funds, they really didn't seem to be using it and thought it was more of an administrative event. The request actually came from the town trustee of the trust funds in that town, that the administrative burden of keeping that fund up wasn't worth their efforts. And there was a warrant article this spring to dissolve that fund, and the money that was in it was just added to the general fund revenue to go towards a fund balance of what existed. If you folks wanted to talk about that this winter when you're developing your warrant for the coming March, we could certainly have that conversation.
But we haven't had a catastrophic case where we've been negatively impacted.
No, and there's other avenues now where you don't have to use that.
And I would suggest, I'm sorry, I mean,
yeah, go ahead.
I would suggest that this may be an appropriate methodology for that, because you need a vote of the public in March to take money out of it. So, because especially now that you have the ability to retain funds from the prior year, so if you have an emergency expenditure necessary for a special ed case, to use your example, you have the money in the bank. You don't need to pull it out of the capital reserve fund. And you couldn't pull it out of the capital reserve fund without a vote on the warrant. So We can have a more lengthy discussion of that when we're building the warrant for this coming spring if you want.
Yeah, no, I just, I looked at the amount and we can do that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Any other questions about this report?
Okay. Privilege of the floor. Ian, are you, okay? Board member concerns, any, do you have anything? No? Okay. And I need a motion to go into non-public. All right, for personnel, seconded by Bill, roll call, Barbara, Bernie.
Yes.
Bill.
That's the license gonna do it. Be here for about
Yes.
5 minutes.
Paul. Thank you.